Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So in today's video, we have some more good news for Social Security beneficiaries as a new bill is actually picking up tons of support from both sides of the aisle, both Democrats and Republicans. And in this bill, it would increase Social Security payments for millions of Americans. So we're going to be covering that bill and the likelihood of it passing, which is actually high considering that it does have support from both Republicans and Democrats. Now, on top of that, with the time ticking down, just 10 years away from the Social Security Trust Fund and unfortunately going insolvent, we look at a few different ways, a few different leading proposals on how to save this moving forward. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so as I just mentioned a second ago, and as we've heard really over the past year or so, unfortunately, in the next 10 years, say whether it's 2032 or 2034, unfortunately, the trust fund is going to go insolvent, which what that means for us is if we don't do anything about it, come that year, whether it's 2032, 2033, 2034, or another year kind of close to those, whatever you're receiving in that year, you're going to receive a cut of 20% if nothing is being done. So because of this, we have lawmakers from both sides of the aisle coming up with different proposals on how to fix the trust fund to make sure that it's solvent in years, decades going forward, so we're not having the 20 to 25% benefit cut. So we're going to be covering what these leading proposals are. So according to Go Banking Rates, Tax the Rich, Privatize, what are the leading proposals to save Social Security? So starting off, the first proposal is to tax the wealthy. So most of the proposals in this area involve raising the annual income threshold on wages subject to Social Security payroll taxes. Currently, any wages above $160,200 are not taxed. Some lawmakers recommend raising that figure to $250,000 or higher to bring in more revenue. Under Biden's 4-point plan, the Social Security tax would apply to all earned income above $400,000, leaving wages between $160,200 and $400,000 untaxed. Now, the second way in which they want to make sure the trust fund is solvent for a longer period of time, or, just better off the program, is to privatize it. So this proposal has been pushed by former Vice President, Mike Pence, a 2024 presidential candidate. During a speech at the National Association of Wholesaler Distributors Summit earlier this year, Pence proposed giving younger Americans the ability to take a portion of their Social Security withholdings and put that into a private savings account. So instead of paying 6.2% of your paycheck into the Social Security Trust Fund, instead they could put some money into their own private savings account and invest that money by themselves. So that's another solution. Again, this is mostly by Republicans. Democrats are pretty much against privatization of the Social Security program. Another solution out there is to raise the full retirement age. So right now it is at 67. A lot of Republicans are coming out and wanting to raise that to either 69 or 70. Again, pretty much every Democrat is against that idea. Furthermore, another idea is to cut benefits across the board. So this is a hugely unpopular idea as well, which is why few lawmakers openly support it. However, U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and others have hinted that Social Security expenditures need to be reduced to help balance the budget, and benefit cuts are one way to do that. So instead of waiting until 2033 to cut benefits by 20%, they're saying maybe we can cut benefits across the board now for everyone by 5%. Again, this is a pretty unpopular idea, and pretty much every Democrat is against it. Another idea is to only cut benefits for high earners only. So this proposal would likely garner more support than imposing an across-the-board cut. Reducing Social Security benefits for high earners can help bolster the program's finances without having much financial impact on high earners who have sufficient wealth built up in stocks and other investments. So pretty much that's an idea that we covered in yesterday's video, where someone who is doing very well off, if they have millions of dollars in the bank, perhaps they don't really need a monthly Social Security check of $4,000 to $5,000 per month, that we could get rid of payments going to millionaires and people who are doing very well for themselves, and instead save up that extra money in the trust fund. That way it stays solvent for a longer period of time. Another idea being thrown around is to increase payroll taxes. So right now we pay 6.2 to 12.4% out of each paycheck, depending whether you're an employee or whether you're self-employed. we could actually raise that up to 7.2 to 14.4%. That way there's more money going into the trust fund. They could are also looking into changing the way in which the COLAs are calculated over to the CPIE method. Currently, we use the CPIW method. They're saying the CPIE method much more closely tracks the expenditures in which seniors make. So they think this would be a better solution. And on average, the CPIE has been around 0.2% higher every single year. Once again, that's just an average. Some years the CPIW is actually higher. However, if they did this and there were higher COLAs each and every year, obviously that would speed up the process in which the trust fund is depleted. But that is just one of the other ideas being thrown out there. And we do actually have a couple of different bills in Congress. For example, we had the Fair COLA for Seniors Act of 2023. Right now, that does have 28 co-sponsors in the House, so it is picking up quite a bit of support. And in this bill, if passed, they would change the method in which the COLAs are calculated over to the CPIE method. Now, going ahead and jumping into some other news as far as Social Security goes, we have some good news for residents in the state of Missouri. So right now, or in previous years at least, whatever you received for your Social Security check, part of it could have been eligible to be taxed at the federal level, but then also Missouri was going to be taxing some of your Social Security check as well. Well, this year, just recently, we actually had the governor sign a bill into law which would exempt Social Security and public pension payments from state income taxes. So no longer are you going to have to pay the state of Missouri a chunk of whatever your Social Security check is or your pension payment. So that is pretty good news as well. And then, like I mentioned earlier on in today's video, in the very beginning, we have some really good news for millions of people currently receiving Social Security, because unfortunately, there were a couple of different provisions made, probably, I believe it was back in the 70s, the WEP and GPO. And unfortunately, because of those two provisions, a lot of people, a lot of Americans, what they receive in their Social Security check has drastically reduced because of those two provisions. But we actually have a bill introduced both in the House and the Senate, which would get rid of those provisions and ensure that the millions of Americans who had their Social Security checks, lowered because of those two provisions, they get rid of them, so they should be receiving much higher payments if this passes. Now, it has support from both sides of the aisle, so the likelihood of it passing is very high. So according to Sherrod Brown, who is a U.S. Senator for Ohio, Brown-Collins introduced bipartisan bill to get public employees full Social Security benefit. So today, U.S. Senators Sherrod Brown and Susan Collins reintroduced bipartisan legislation that would ensure public sector workers and their families can receive full Social Security benefits after two previous statutes reduced them. The senators' bill, the Social Security Fairness Act, would repeal the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset from the Social Security Act. Both of those statutes significantly reduced benefits for nearly 3 million Americans, including 241,755 Ohioans, many of whom are teachers, police officers, and state, county, and local government workers. Brown and Collins previously introduced the legislation in 2021. So the WEP, which was enacted in 1983, reduces the Social Security benefits of workers who receive pensions from a federal, state, or local government for employment not covered by Social Security. And the GPO, which was enacted in 1977, reduces Social Security spousal benefits for spouses, widows, and widowers whose spouses receive pensions from a federal, state, or local government. Together, these provisions reduce Social Security benefits for nearly 3 million Americans, including many teachers and police officers. The Social Security Fairness Act would repeal both the WEP and GPO statutes, ensuring public sector workers and their families receive their full Social Security benefits. And we can see the bill right up here on the screen. This bill currently is in the Senate and has 44 co-sponsors. We have 36 Democrats co-sponsoring the bill. We have 5 Republicans and 3 independents. And then, of course, it's also in the House as well. And in the House, it has 287 co-sponsors. 198 are Democrats and 89 are Republicans. So we have a lot of support from both sides of the aisle. Absolutely, if this bill was ever voted on, it would definitely pass. It just comes down to whether or not they're actually ever going to vote on the bill, because again, if they voted on the bill, we can see here that it has support from both sides of the aisle. It would absolutely 100% pass, at least in my opinion. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Do you like this bill? Do you perhaps not like it? Let me know what your thoughts are as always. But that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.